important the role of a parliamentarian is. We're here to scrutinize the spending of public funds. I will remind my colleagues that the two maxims that govern this institution, number one, the executive should have no income which is not granted to it or otherwise sanctioned by Parliament, and number two, the executive should make no expenditures except those approved by Parliament in ways approved by Parliament.
The honourable member will have almost 8 minutes to conclude her speech after question period. Statements by members. The honourable member for Burnaby North Seymour.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to thank our firefighters in Burnaby and in the District of North Vancouver. Not only do they work hard to keep our community safe, but they regularly go beyond the call of duty. On April 23rd, Burnaby firefighters hosted their Gala Ball, which raises money for charitable organizations and programs like the Society's Nutritional Stack Program, which helps feed hungry kids in Burnaby schools. This year, they generously donated 50% of the Gala's proceeds, more than $50,000, to support the people of Ukraine. I also want to thank firefighters for their advocacy for the people of Burnaby Mountain. Their hard work over the last 3 years helped us announce $30 million to build a brand new fire hall at Simon Fraser University. This gives our community something extra to celebrate during Hats Off Day in June. The firefighters will be out in full force at Station 5, and if they have a dunk tank again this year, I'll be going back in it. So come out, bring the family, enjoy the festivities, and take time to say thank you to our local firefighters.
The honourable member for Central Okanagan, Samuel Nicol.
Madam Speaker, Princeton, British Columbia is a rural community in my riding with a population under 3,000. 6 months ago, the community was absolutely devastated by severe flooding. The damage is in the tens of millions of dollars, and whenever the promised federal disaster relief funding arrives, it will not be near enough. But there is hope. The community has rallied together like never before. Currently, Princeton, British Columbia is one of just 4 communities remaining in the Kraft Hockeyville contest. I cannot state enough how incredible it would be for the town of Princeton to win this award. Not only would the $250,000 provided much-needed support to literally keep a roof over the local arena, the support will give Princeton the boost it so desperately needs right now to keep moving forward in the rebuilding effort. If there was ever a community deserving of the honor of Kraft Hockeyville, it is Princeton, British Columbia. I ask all honourable members of this place to help the good people of Princeton. And this Friday, May the 6th, when Hockeyville opens, please give them your support. Thank you.
Hear, hear.
The honourable member for St. John's East.
Thank you. April 29th was a good day for housing in St. John's East as it marked the announcement of 132 new affordable housing units. Affordable housing options are transformational investments for our communities. And we know that if we want to improve housing affordability and combat homelessness, we need to continue investing across the whole housing continuum. And that includes building more affordable housing near necessary supports and amenities, having repairs done for existing homes to preserve and revitalize communities. This is why the National Housing Strategy is so important. It ensures that women have the housing they need to stay safe and thrive. It provides workers with a home that they can return to at the end of the day so they don't have to make the decision between rent and food. And last week, it was about ensuring that the most vulnerable residents of St. John's have somewhere to go, a place to call home.
The honourable member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're in the middle of Mental Health Week, which this year highlights the great strength that lies in empathy, because in order to support each other, we must first listen to each other. That's what Get Real is all about, as the Mental Health Association invites us to do this week. On this occasion, I'd like to draw your attention particularly to veterans. Veterans are more likely to suffer from mental health problems not only than serving members of the military, but than the general population. They're more likely to experience homelessness or consider suicide. At the root of these ailments is mental health that has been compromised by military service. Even Quebec's greatest war hero, Leo Major, suffered from severe PTSD after his discharge in 1955. In this Mental Health Week, I invite all Quebecers to get real with a veteran. Empathy and listening can go a long way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Vimy. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about something of great interest to the vast majority of Canadians, and especially Montrealers. Everyone knows Montreal's bagels are the best, but for generations, finding the world's best bagel has preoccupied communities across Canada, particularly in the Greater Montreal area. Well, today, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to inform you that we can add another name to the leaderboard, Bagelmania. Located in my riding of Vimy, Bagelmania is helping spread the joy and love of hot, delicious bagels throughout Laval and Montreal. Sophie Trivlidis and her brother Costa have been in the business for 26 years, and their hard work and dedication have not gone unnoticed. Bagelmania was recently included in Le Devoir's list of the top 10 bagels in Quebec. Congratulations to Sophie and Costa, and may the best bagel win.
The Honourable Member for Foothills.
Cumira Hive. May is Gaelic Nova Scotia Month, a time to celebrate the history, culture, language, and contributions, not just in Nova Scotia, but across Canada. Gaelic speakers were amongst the first explorers and settlers to our country. It was the mother tongue of Canada's first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald. When the Scots first immigrated to Canada, Gaelic was the third most common language in our country. But through time, that language almost disappeared. But now more young people are more excited to learn about the language and the culture of their ancestors. Fiddle and bagpipe music, Gaelic song provide a rich history and culture. Dance, storytelling, local history, and customs are filled with the hearts and soul of a Gaelic renewal here in Canada. Many Canadians, including my two talented daughters, kept these story traditions alive through things like Highland dancing, the Highland Games, and Gaelic music. And we want to see that revival all across Canada and communities across the country. I encourage all Canadians to take a moment to listen to a Gaelic song, read a poem by Robbie Burns, and be inspired by the beauty of Gaelic culture.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Richmond Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a mental health advocate, I'm pleased to rise today to acknowledge Canadian Mental Health Week from May 2nd to May 8th. We are all aware of the immeasurable impact of COVID-19 on Canadians' mental health, but we need to couple awareness with actions on various ways. First, we need to understand the problem by investing in research and evidence-based policies that inform us on the social determinants of health and mental health outcomes. We then need immediate collaboration between federal, provincial, and territorial government to achieve mental health parity by bringing services and resources up to par with those allocated for physical health. These efforts will be informed by the National Standard Framework for Mental Health, which once developed can formalize what we can expect regarding timelines, access, and quality of mental health services across Canada. To conclude, I echo my support for a 3-digit mental health suicide prevention hotline to make emergency support more accessible for those who need it the most. We keep saying that mental health is health, but we need to bring this statement to life. We need to commit to the above-mentioned actions. Let's get real. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kitchener South, Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to share with this House that Apply Board is one of the recipients of the Governor-General's Innovation Award. This local business with global impact was founded only 6 years ago by 3 brothers, Martin, Massey, and Mehdi Basiri, 2 of whom are residents of Kitchener South Hespeler. In this short time, they have grown their company to the largest online international student recruitment platform in the world. They have helped more than 300,000 students to date and are on a mission to improve access to education for everyone, no matter where they are from. Their work has strengthened the diversity of our student populations, supported the flow of academic talent, and fostered internationalization. It is for these reasons that Apply Board has received this award, and it is very well deserved. I ask the members of this House to join me in applauding Apply Board for receiving this prestigious award in their pursuit of educating the world.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
Mr. Mr. Speaker, this is the 71st annual Mental Health Week, and all across the country we're trying to raise awareness to mental health issues that Canadians are suffering. We also know the pandemic has been incredibly difficult on Canadians' mental health. In an incredible show of unity, this House passed a motion by the member from Caribou Prince George to enact a national suicide hotline number, 988. Mr. Speaker, it's been over 500 days since this was passed by this House. Nothing has happened. 500 days where more Canadians have taken their lives. Over 500 days of continued mental health challenges. And yet, nothing has been done. Mr. Speaker, Canadians cannot afford any more delays by this government. I'm calling on this House to reaffirm and push this government to get the 988 suicide line done.
The honourable member for Winnipeg South Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the government is building a national monument to memorialize discrimination against LGBTQ2+ people in Canada. The LGBT Purge Fund and Heritage Canada held a competition for the design of the monument, and I am happy to share with the House that a design submitted by constituents of Winnipeg South Centre was selected. My constituents, architect Peter Sampson and landscape architect Liz Reifert of Public City Architecture in Winnipeg, along with Albert McLeod, an Indigenous and Two-Spirited People subject matter expert, and visual artists Shonda Dempsey and Laurie Milan, won the competition with their design, which they call Thunderbird. The design draws on the symbolism of a thunderhead cloud, which embodies the strength, activism, and hope of LGBTQ2+ communities. In the words of Liz Reifert, this monument will be a symbol of celebration and a space for reflection, healing, activism, and performance for generations to come. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Today I joined with dignitaries, Poland Canada Congress representatives, and Polish Canadians to raise the flag of the Republic of Poland here in Ottawa on Polish Constitution Day, an acknowledgement of the 231st anniversary of the introduction of the Polish Constitution. Poland continues its legacy of fighting for freedom in the midst of insurmountable odds. From its history, standing for democracy around the world, NATO involvement, and most recently the support for the people of Ukraine during the present Russian invasion. Poland commands respect during uncertain times. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to stand in this House as the great-grandson of Polish immigrants, and I'm proud to be a member of the Canada-Polish Parliamentary Friendship Group to build the relationship between our two countries. I join with Polish Canadians from across our great nation in commemorating this important day for Poland, the Polish diaspora, and all those who value freedom and democracy around the world.
Thank you for that intervention. I do need to remind the honourable member on the usage of props, even though it was a big part of his presentation. But the usage of props is not allowed in this House of Commons. The honourable member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Speaker, this is Mental Health Week, and I want to highlight the work of two amazing organizations in my riding. A big shout out to Marg Cox, a tireless champion at the Haliburton County Youth Wellness Club, one of only 10 such centres in Ontario. Despite restrictions imposed by COVID, the hub served 656 youth aged 12 to 25 last year, helping with mental health, substance abuse, primary care, vocational housing, and other support services. In addition, our local chapter of the Canadian Mental Health Association is launching a mobile mental health and addictions clinic that will include an office in a modified bus to deliver services to remote and other underserved areas. This initiative will save lives by providing accessible services for those who are dealing with complex mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, suicide, addictions, abuse, trauma, psychosis, as well as poverty and isolation. It's perhaps fitting that the theme of Mental Health Week this year is empathy. It's been said that the shortest distance between two people is empathy, which can help bridge divides and heal our communities.
The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Here in Canada, access to abortion is important. Women's rights are strong and I hope unshakable. We have a responsibility to speak out when women's rights are threatened. Our Prime Minister repeated today that the right to choose is a woman's right, an individual right, period. It's my right, it's my daughter's right, it's every Canadian woman's right all across the country to have access to a safe and legal abortion. But still today, there are members of the opposition who are shuffling their feet on this issue. And I hope, Mr. Speaker, that according to CBC, I hope it's not true that the interim leader of the Conservative Party is asking her MPs to keep quiet and not speak about abortion. Women across Canada need to know that all MPs in this House will always protect a woman's fundamental right to choose. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Esquimalt to Saanich-Sooke.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today with renewed hope to address the crisis of coercive and controlling behaviour in Canada. I began this work at the start of the pandemic when I heard from police and frontline service providers who were all seeing a spike in domestic violence. I still hear every week from those suffering from coercive and controlling behaviour and living in fear of the physical violence that nearly always follows it. It remains a tragic fact that in this country, one woman dies at the hands of her partner every 6 days. Many fear not just for themselves, but also for the safety and well-being of their children and other family members. The Justice Committee tabled its report, The Shadow Pandemic, Stopping Coercive and Controlling Behavior in Intimate Relationships, for a second time. I eagerly await the response from the government to this unanimous report. Taking action to make coercive and controlling behavior a criminal offense will send a clear message that this behavior is in itself violence. Taking this action will give hope to survivors, allow earlier intervention, and help create a path to safety for survivors.
The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, these are bad times for the press. In Ukraine, journalists are dying under the hail of bombs. In Russia, journalists have to go into exile or jail or be silenced for telling the truth about the war. Everywhere, journalists, columnists, bloggers are being locked up, threatened, and murdered. With the earth heating up, a global pandemic, war raging in Europe, now more than ever, we need a free press. We need to be informed. In Quebec and in Canada on social networks, journalists are more and more often insulted, intimidated, and threatened. I appeal to our fellow citizens, to all who love democracy. Let's work together for a free press. Let's not let bullying win over information. And I appeal to the government. There can be no free press without newspapers. We have to support our local and regional newspapers more. It's urgent. And on this day, I would like to say thank you to the journalists for your essential work.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Witnessed an abhorrent new low from Russia's foreign minister, whose ignorant comments about Adolf Hitler perpetuate a hateful and bigoted narrative to distract from his war crimes. Russia has frequently invoked Nazism and World War II to justify its brazen aggression in Ukraine while attacking Holocaust memorials and survivors of Russia's deliberate murder of civilians. This is the lowest form of racism against Jews, to accuse Jews themselves of anti-Semitism. Lavrov's remarks are simply false and continue to contribute to the perpetuating discrimination and disinformation worldwide. It takes courage and more than just words when it comes to standing up for Jewish communities and their homeland. That position is non-negotiable, and I invite members of this House to do so. I will add my voice and forceful condemnation and a complete repudiation of these vile comments from Mr. Lavrov. They should always be called out in this House.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday Muslims across Canada and around the world observed the end of the holy month of Ramadan, a time of fasting and charity, and marked the beginning of Eid al-Fitr, a time to pray, to feast, to give back, help the less fortunate in our communities, and celebrate with our loved ones. This Eid, I'd like to draw attention to those Muslims across the world who are struggling. The Uyghurs, the Rohingya, the Indians in India, the Muslims in India, the Kashmiris and Palestine, and more. Human rights matter, Mr. Speaker, and here in Canada we are combating Islamophobia through appointing a special representative for combating Islamophobia. We're working on online hate and so much more. We all need to work together to ensure that Canadians in Mississauga, Erin Mills, and across Canada have those protections that we all need to ensure that we prosper. Today, Mr. Speaker, I wish each and every Muslim Canadian in Canada and across the world a very happy Eid. Eid Mubarak.
Oral questions, question orale, l'honorable.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, for days during the illegal demonstration on Wellington Street, the Prime Minister remained in hiding, refusing to intervene and deliberately sowing both discord and division, condemning Canadians who did not think like him. Then, on the 14th of February, realising that his inaction was likely to backfire, he pulled out the heavy weapon, the Emergency Measures Act, claiming that the police needed it to defeat the protests. The protesters returned over the weekend and left without the Emergencies Act. Can the Prime Minister tell us why? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I would like to thank all policing bodies and the RCMP for their excellent work over the weekend. Their measures were well implemented with an operative plan that was well prepared. This is very difficult. This is very different to what happened in January and February, where we invoked the Emergencies Act, the Emergency Measures Act. This was a necessary decision that we made. It was a responsible decision that we made, and we will collaborate with the Commissioner for Transparency. Thank you. The Honourable Member from Mégantic-L'Érable. In proclaiming the Emergency Measures Act, the Liberal government cited security threats. I quote, "Threats of violence and the presence of firearms during demonstrations constitute a state of emergency." Mr. Speaker, these are serious allegations which have caused a great deal of public fear. Knowing this, why did the Prime Minister allow members, senators and the House staff to continue to circulate among the protesters during the protests in January and February? The Honourable Minister for Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, since the beginning of the illegal blockade last winter, we offered a lot of support for all parliamentarians who work on the Hill, but there is a distinction between the experience of MPs who are working here and all the inhabitants of Ottawa who experience a lot of disturbances in their community. The police had to make necessary decisions, and we had to make necessary decisions to implement the Emergency Measures Act. We will collaborate with any exercise in transparency. The Honourable Member from Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, I would like to quote another part of the proclamation. The situation caused by threats to the security of Canada is of such gravity that it constitutes a national emergency. End of quote. What information did the Prime Minister detain at that time that confirmed the existence of a risk of such magnitude to the country? Mr. Speaker, how many Canadians have been arrested for organising sedition against the Government of Canada? The Honourable Minister for Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, there was a lot of proof of disturbances on the economy, at our borders. Many Canadians lost their jobs temporarily during the protests, and that is one of the reasons for which we had to invoke the Emergency Measures Act. And now it is time to start our transparency exercise, and the government will cooperate with the Commissioner.
The Honourable House Leader for the Official Opposition.
A main pillar of our justice system is that all Canadians must be treated equally under the law. When new evidence of fraud comes to light, law enforcement has a duty to investigate, regardless of how powerful or privileged any individual who committed the fraud may be. The Attorney General has an obligation to make sure this applies to everyone, including a sitting Prime Minister. Does the Attorney General believe that individuals who commit criminal offenses, regardless of how powerful or privileged they are or what positions they hold, should be charged?
The Honourable House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, what we see again and again is the Conservatives, rather than posing questions on the issues that are affecting Canadians, where they're looking for answers, issues where we put forward tangible solutions on everything from housing to the environment, they want to play partisan games. They want to throw mud. They want to talk about things that happened 6 years ago. They want to obfuscate and block Parliament from doing its work, taking days and days and days to repeat the same things. We can do that. They can play their partisan games, or they could do the business of the nation and ask things that Canadians actually care about.
The Honourable House Leader for the Official Opposition.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, Canadians do care that they're treated equally under the same laws that apply to the powerful and privileged in this country. The released RCMP criminal brief made it clear that if this was a civil servant or any other Canadian, that they'd be facing serious criminal charges in this case. There are new known facts that warrant a full investigation. Does the Attorney General believe that the law should be applied equally to all Canadians, including a sitting Prime Minister, if they commit a criminal offence?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
I realize that the Conservatives want to spend time talking about things that happened 6 years ago, but I would ask them instead, right now we have a Bill C-8 that is at 12 days in this House. That was introduced in December. That's 5 months of obstruction. So I would say, Mr. Speaker, well, they don't want to talk about the economy. Well, they don't want to talk about the environment. Well, they don't want to talk about the issues that are important to Canadians. Will they at least let the other parties in this place do their work and get the business of this nation done?
So indignant.
Order. Just keep it down to a minimum roar. The Honourable
Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, the Federal Immigration Department, RCC, is possibly the worst department in Canada. It should just realise 31 months of waiting for permanent residency for Quebec immigrants, 29,000 backlogged applications, cases that have been dragging on since 2009, Mr. Speaker. Ottawa is where cases go to die. That's why it's arrogant to mock Quebec when it proposes to take care of all its immigration itself. But it is especially arrogant towards the people who are waiting. In the face of its obvious incompetence, why doesn't the government leave it to Quebec to take care of its own immigration? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Immigration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Immigration is essential for our economy. What will make things move along is an increase in Quebec's immigration levels. Quebec, Mr. Speaker, is allowed up to 28% of immigrants welcomed in Canada, but they only choose to only welcome 13%. So if Quebec really wants to improve the situation for thousands of people who are waiting for their permanent residency in Quebec, then they might want to follow our example by increasing their immigration levels. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, let us never take for granted the rights of women. Let us never assume that what we have won will never be taken away. Let us never assume that it's settled, that everyone accepts that a woman's body belongs to her and that the decision to terminate her pregnancy belongs to her alone. We have to keep fighting because one moment of inattention can set us back for decades. Can the Deputy Prime Minister assure us that her government will ensure that women's rights to abortion will be protected? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Yes. And first of all, I would like to say that as many Canadians, I was both shocked and deeply troubled by the news emanating from the United States yesterday evening with regards to the right to abortion. That having been said, and expressing myself here today as a woman, as a mother, and As the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, it is important for me to highlight the clear and determined commitment that our government has in protecting women's rights to choose, a fundamental right.
Member for Burnaby South.
It was very encouraging to...
Order. The honourable member for Burnaby South has the floor.
Speaker, the federal government leapt into action to go after Canadians who applied for CERB because the government told them to. But when it comes to a wealthy, powerful corporation, they cut a sweetheart backroom deal for a company that has avoided paying their fair share over the objections of CRA staff. Why does this government continue to prioritize going after everyday families instead of going after wealthy corporations that are purposely avoiding paying their fair share? When will the government understand they need to prioritize the wealthy corporations that are cheating the system and not going after working class Canadians?
Well, then I've been asked.
Mr. Speaker, the trust in our system is at the heart of the CRA. Allegations when it comes to transfer prices has been examined by a third party and no poor behaviour has been noted. Let us be clear, Mr. Speaker, the independent inquiry showed that the arrangement was in fact favourable to the agency and was not preferential treatment to any taxpayer. The honourable member for Burnaby South. People are paying the price of the increase of gas and the climate crisis. Large oil and gas companies are getting record profits. Records. Cenovus has its biggest profits, $1.6 billion. Why does the government continue to subsidize these companies instead of stopping oil and gas subsidies altogether? The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government has worked with every sector of the economy to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but to also grow the economy, and we are working with the steel sector and the oil and gas sector and all sectors to make sure that our economy will be robust in the future.
The honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, I'll ask the Minister of Public Safety the same question I asked yesterday, a question that he suspiciously avoided answering. Did any minister or members of their political staff speak with Justice Rouleau before his appointment as Commissioner on the inquiry into the Emergencies Act? Did they discuss what kind of evidence the inquiry would or would not seek, including documents covered under cabinet confidence or solicitor-client privilege?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I can assure my honourable colleague that the government is fully committed to being transparent around the events and circumstances that led to the invocation of the Emergencies Act. Last week, we launched the public inquiry, affording Justice Rouleau broad powers to compel witnesses, to compel documents and information, including some classified information, should he so choose to ask for it. Our intention is to shine a light on those events, and it would be certainly, I think, a point of departure to hear the Conservatives recognize that there was an emergency. We fulfilled our responsibility to protect Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, he's avoiding the question again, but I'll move on. This past weekend, Ottawa saw the so-called Rolling Thunder protests come and go without major incident. Now, during the Freedom Convoy protests, the government claimed that they needed the Emergencies Act because they needed to compel tow truck drivers to remove the protesters. Now, over this last weekend, we saw many vehicles towed without needing the Emergencies Act. Yet another blow to this government's fabricated claims. If the government didn't need extraordinary powers to get the tow trucks, what did they need them for?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, I'd like to begin by expressing my gratitude to all frontline police officers, including members of the RCMP, who ensured that we were able to maintain public safety over the course of the past weekend. Of course, there are big distinctions between what occurred last weekend and what occurred last winter, which was a national emergency, Mr. Speaker. We invoked the Emergencies Act after we received advice from law enforcement. Once it was invoked, we were able to restore our public safety, and now we'll ensure that there's transparency in the accountability of that decision. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the minister claimed the Liberals invoked the Emergencies Act because they needed it, and yet again there was a large protest related to the winter one that he just referred to this past weekend, but as far as I'm aware, no one remains camped out on the roadways around Parliament, which is in direct contradiction to what the minister is claiming, because as this past weekend showed, with leadership and coordination between government and police, peace and order can be maintained. Mr. Speaker, there was clearly a failure by these Liberals to show leadership during the winter protest, as the minister refers to it, and they used the Emergencies Act to bail themselves out. Isn't that right, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I would point out that notwithstanding the fact that public safety was maintained, that there were enforcement actions taken last week as a result of some individuals who, again, crossed the line and broke the law. And it would be, again, an opportunity for the Conservatives to recognize finally, after now months of denying that there was an emergency, because collectively we have a responsibility and a burden as parliamentarians to uphold the law. That's exactly what we did when we invoked the Emergencies Act, and now we'll ensure there's transparency so that all Canadians can be reaffirmed in that decision. Thank you.
The honourable member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. MPs continued to work from right here in Parliament throughout the winter protest. In fact, I would walk across Wellington Street at least once a day with my infant son in a stroller to come to work. If the threat was as serious as this government is now making it out to be, did the Minister of Public Safety knowingly put the lives of myself, my infant son, and every single person that works here in danger?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, I'm very relieved that my colleague was able to access the Hill with the additional protection and safety that was offered by the RCMP, by the Parliamentary Protection Service, by the Sergeant-at-Arms. But there's a big difference between what some of us were able to experience on this Hill and what was going on off of this Hill, Mr. Speaker. And there can be no doubt that people who lived in Ottawa were completely had their lives upended by the illegal occupation here, that people who lived in border communities had their lives upended, and that was because individuals broke the law to a point of a national emergency. That's why we invoked the Emergencies Act. We did it to protect Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins, Mr. Speaker, last week there were protests in downtown Ottawa. The police, the municipality and various stakeholders managed to manage the situation effectively and quickly. It was just a question of leadership, Mr. Speaker. Yet, last January, the government was completely overwhelmed by the events on the Hill and decided to hide behind emergency legislation. Will the Prime Minister finally admit that he lacked leadership, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, there are huge differences between last weekend, where there was a protest, a smaller protest than last winter. Last winter there was a blockade and an occupation, illegal in nature, and we respectfully listened to what police bodies had to say, and then we made the decision, with a lot of attention, to invoke the Emergency Measures Act. This was a decision that was necessary, and now we will collaborate with any exercise in transparency. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Well, Mr. Speaker, once again, last week's demonstration was orderly. It was simply a matter of leadership. Here is what the Minister of Public Safety said yesterday, and I quote, "First of all, we are relieved by the good work of the police forces on the ground, including the RCMP, who added resources to assure everyone that public safety would be maintained, Mr. Speaker. How can he still claim today that the emergency measures legislation for the events of January was actually necessary?" The Honourable Minister for Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, the short answer is because it was necessary. There was a lot of disturbances at the border, against our economy, a lot of disturbances to our public safety against many Canadians, and that is the reason for which we invoked the Emergency Measures Act. It wasn't a light decision to make, it was a difficult decision to make, but it was the necessary one. And now, on this side of the House, we will participate in every exercise of transparency. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, in March we were sorry that the federal government was taking 28 months to process Quebec immigrants applying for permanent residency. A few weeks later, it has become 31 months. 31 months of waiting, 29,000 backlogs, some of which have been going on since 2009. Mr. Speaker, there is an immigration crisis. Today, the minister can simply no longer say that everything is fine. They can't just simply look for scapegoats. These are statistics from IRCC. Can they at least name the problem today and say that, yes, there is an immigration crisis? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, perhaps I would like to talk about the Canada-Quebec agreement. Quebec is allowed 28% of new permanent residents that arrive every single year, but they only choose to welcome 13. They pick and choose 74% of immigrants that arrive in Quebec, including with regards to their language skills. The federal government transfers close to $700 million a year, without condition, by the way, for the settlement and the francization of immigrants. On this side of the House, we will continue to work with Quebec instead of simply trying to pick a fight like the Bloc Québécois always seems to do. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the Liberals are saying that today they're saying that we're looking for a fight, but now the Parliamentary Secretary is pointing their finger at us. Right now, the federal government is being sued for issues that have been dragging on since 2009. It's not the fault of François Legault, because his party didn't even exist in 2009. It's not Philippe Couillard's fault either. He wasn't even back in politics. It's not even the fault of Pauline Marois' targets. It goes back even further than that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the machine is broken in Ottawa. It has been broken for a hell of a long time. Instead of pointing the finger at Quebec, when will the federal government finally own up to its mistakes? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Immigration. Mr. Speaker, I love it when my colleague gets so excited. It's very honourable. But on this side of the House, we have already said it and we will repeat it. Immigration is essential for our economy. Like the member knows, Quebec establishes its own immigration target. Last year, we welcomed close to 50,000 new permanent residents in that province. This year, Quebec increased its targets, which will reduce waiting times. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, there are three certain things in life: death, taxes, and delays at the federal level each and every single year for the arrival of temporary foreign workers. Yet there is nothing more predictable than that. It's every year. Spring arrives, more or less, I think you'll agree, every time, every year, as do the harvest. And every time the federal government seems surprised that it's springtime. Every time the producers face the same delays, and every year they wonder if the workers will arrive on time. Mr. Speaker, the machine has broken down in Ottawa. If they don't want to fix it, why not transfer the management of the machine to Quebec? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Immigration. Mr. Speaker, listen. We know that immigration is essential for fighting labour shortages. work permits are prioritised for healthcare, for agriculture, and for food and the production of seafood. In Q1 2022, I'd like to remind this House, Mr. Speaker, that we processed more than 100,000 work permits, double the amount of Q1 2021, Mr. Speaker. And we will continue to make sure that Canadian employers have access to the workers that they need.
Calgary Midnapore.
If you want to visit Big Ben or the Queen, no problem. Passengers through Heathrow no longer require tests or proof of vaccine. Want to visit the Hans Christian Andersen Museum or the Little Mermaid by the Sea? Feel free. There are now no travel restrictions in place for tourists visiting Denmark. Always dreamed of visiting the Leaning Tower of Pisa or the Trevi Fountain? No health pass needed. Yet Canada is left behind in a myriad of mandates as tourist season looms. So when the Prime Minister said that Canada was back, did he mean the back of the line for ending the mandates?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, the last 2 years have been very difficult on Canadians. Once in a 100-year pandemic has compelled governments around the world and in Canada to put together a range of measures to protect the health and safety of Canadians. Over the last few weeks, our federal government has been adjusting these measures. We have removed tests, pre-departure tests, Mr. Speaker. We have removed testing at airports, Mr. Speaker. We are now continuing to adjust our measures based on the advice that we receive from our public health experts, Mr. Speaker.
Order. The Honourable Member for Regina Louvain.
A couple of headlines from the past few weeks. Italy and Greece relaxed COVID restrictions ahead of tourist season. UK drops all travel restrictions. Denmark lifts all COVID-19 travel restrictions. Hungary, Iceland, Norway, Ireland, Romania, Slovenia, all open for travel ahead of summer, and the list goes on. Mr. Speaker, when will Canadians have the same freedoms that so many others around the world currently enjoy? Very simply put, does this NDP Liberal government actually trust Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate very much the key word, which is freedom. The reason we have the freedom to relax those measures in Canada is that many Canadians, in fact the vast majority of Canadians, have received their first, their second, and in many cases their third dose. Mr. Speaker, when we hear the opposition speak about public health measures but badly about vaccination, we have to make a choice, Mr. Speaker. We can't have relaxation of public health measures, more freedom, without vaccination and going through COVID-19.
The Honourable Member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We know that our duty is for Canadians into ensuring that their safety, but these mandates have gone on too long. Canadians are unable to travel to see their ill relatives or attend funerals. Constituents continue to not being able to see their mothers or fathers or siblings or grandparents who are suffering from illnesses. Canadians are looking for hope, Mr. Speaker. What is this government going to do to end these mandates and to reunite Canadians with their families?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad to continue. 135,000, that's the number of lives lost in the United States because they have had a lower vaccination rate than we had in Canada. Mr. Speaker, 135,000 people, that's about the size of any one of us riding in our country. 135,000 lives lost because in the other country they had a lower vaccination rate. That, Mr. Speaker, is not only a personal but also a social tragedy.
The Honourable Member, Peace River, Wexlock.
Mr. Speaker, Argentina, Costa Rica, Denmark, Hungary, Jamaica, Thailand, Mexico, Norway, and Poland. These are a few of the many countries that have ended all their vaccine mandates. Even citizens of Cuba, a country with an interesting connection to the Prime Minister, have more freedom to travel than Canadians. However, the Liberal government maintains one of the most restrictive vaccine regimes around the world. On what day will 7 million Canadians get to fly again?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Speaker, my honourable colleague never agreed with any of the public health measures we put in place. He never supported vaccine mandates.
Order. I think we just let the minister answer, and we can ask another question if time. So you can get on the list. It's easy. Talk to your whip, and you can get on the list. The Honourable Minister of Transport.
So, Mr. Speaker, let me just say, these measures are temporary and we'll always consult our public health experts on how to proceed forward. But let me just say to my honourable Conservative colleagues, they can't, on the one hand, agree that vaccines save lives, and on the other hand, call them vindictive measures. That doesn't add up, Mr. Speaker. They have to tell Canadians that they believe that vaccines save lives. Do they agree with that or not, Mr. Speaker?
Order. We made it to question 22 here. Are we ready to proceed? Are we ready to proceed? The Honourable Member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, today 112 organizations wrote a letter saying fossil fuels subsidies are undermining our climate goals. This government is fueling the crisis, handing out billions of dollars to big oil and gas. Today, the minister defended his newest subsidy, citing the IPCC, but the Liberals lobbied them to highlight this flawed approach. Despite that, the report says carbon capture is the least effective and most expensive option. Why is this government listening to big oil instead of the science?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government remains committed to phasing out of inefficient fossil fuel subsidies. But fossil fuel subsidies do not include those measures that are intended to reduce carbon emissions. And if my honourable colleague will actually read the IPCC report, it talks about carbon capture and sequestration as being an enabling technology to reduce emissions around the world.
The Honourable Member for Timmins James Bay.
Well, as Canadians get hosed at the pumps, Imperial Oil tripled their profits, and RBC says 4 Canadian oil giants are on track to get $47 billion in revenue. Now, do you think they'd spend any of that mitigating the damage they're doing to the planet? Not a chance when they can mooch off this Liberal government who give them billions in subsidies. In the face of a burning planet, this government has turned themselves into an open bar for the oil lobby. So my question is to the carbon-captured environment minister. When is he going to do the right thing and stop giving Canadian taxpayers' money to big oil?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government has an ambitious climate plan, and perhaps the most detailed climate plan that exists in the world, focused on reducing emissions, but doing so in a manner that's going to create a good economy, a strong economy, and good jobs for Canadians across the country. We are working with industry in all sectors of the economy to ensure we do just that. That is something that the NDP has never understood, a strong economy. It's important that we do reduce emissions and maintain a strong economy at the same time. That's exactly what we're doing.
The Honourable Member for Brampton North.
Mr. Speaker, Punjabi Canadians in my riding of Brampton North and across Canada have been advocating for a direct flight from Canada to the Indian city of Amritsar. My colleagues and I have also been raising their concerns with officials. Would the Minister of Transport please update this House as to what our government's position on the issue is?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my colleague for Brampton North for her question and her advocacy on this issue. I've been hearing from members of the Punjabi Canadian communities and colleagues here in the House of Commons about their desire to see more direct flights to India, including flights to Amritsar. This afternoon, I met with the Indian Civil Aviation Minister and I raised the issue of more direct flights, including flights to Amritsar. I want to thank Minister Sindhya for his willingness to work together on strengthening our air transportation agreement. Mr. Speaker, our government will continue to support airlines to implement more direct flights to India. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, housing prices in my community have doubled since 2015. Former Conservative governments kept the housing market stable. House Sigma, using house sales data for Weston, the housing minister's own neighbourhood, shows the price of a home in May of 2007 was $233,500. April 2015 was $296,250, and in April of 2022, it was nearly $800,000. Why is the minister failing even his own constituents who are having to pay over $500,000 more for a home since he got elected?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
2022, we are investing more than ever before in the building of more affordable housing. We're doubling the number of new homes built in Canada in the next 10 years. We're introducing the first-time home buyer tax-free savings account and making sure that we double the first-time home buyer tax credit, as well as extending the first-time home buyer incentive. In addition to that, we're cracking down on speculation and unfair business practices in the real estate sector, while also helping first-time home buyers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, my question today is on behalf of two young people from Charlebourg, François and José. They hope to be able to buy a house one day. But mortgage rates keep climbing, which is making it harder to negotiate a first mortgage. The Prime Minister keeps telling us that inflation is an international phenomenon and that no government can control it, but that's not true. François and José are telling me that no matter how much they save, they just can't keep up with the increase in house prices. When will the Prime Minister take their problems seriously? The Honourable Minister of Housing.
And Jose helped first by the first-time homebuyer tax-free savings account, the first-time homebuyer incentive, and the doubling of the first-time homebuyer tax credit. They'll also be helped by the ban on foreign ownership, something that the party opposite has opposed. This will help free up more housing stock for first-time home buyers, like the Honourable Member mentions. In addition to that, we're building more housing supply, as well as tackling speculation, ending blind bidding, and introducing a new home buyer Bill of Rights. All of these things together, taken together, will do a lot to help first-time home buyers, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Banff Airdrie.
After 7 years of this Liberal government, the price of the average home has doubled from $400,000 to $800,000, and more Canadians are unable to afford a home, and others can't even afford rent. In Canmore and Banff, people are forced to live in vans or share apartments with a dozen other people because they can't even afford rent, let alone buy a home. In Airdrie and Cochrane, young couples are living in their parents' basements with their children. And no matter how hard people work, adequate housing just isn't attainable. How is this acceptable, and why hasn't the government done anything to fix it?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
The party opposite has absolutely no credibility on this issue. They downloaded housing to provinces and municipalities. They had no help for renters. We are the party that introduced federal leadership and significant resources back into affordable housing. And the Honourable Member talks about renters. We introduced the Canada Housing Benefit, which has helped tens of thousands of families in his home province, but they voted against it. And in addition to that, we're not stopping there, Mr. Speaker. In Budget 2022, we are adding an additional $500 to the Canada Housing Benefit.
The Honourable Member for Banff Airdrie.
They are the party that's the problem. The problem is inflation, and they're the ones causing it. At 6.7%, inflation will cost Canadians an extra $2,000 this year. At the grocery store, Canadians are feeling the sting of higher prices, totaling an extra $1,000 this year. At the gas pump, Canadians are paying 40% more than they were last year. And the natural gas that Canadians use to heat their homes is up 19%. These hard-earned dollars are being taken away from people just trying to get by. Why won't this government stop causing the problem?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives continue to talk down the Canadian economy with an absolutely false economic narrative. The truth is that Canada is well placed to weather the economic storms caused by COVID and Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine. according to the IMF, we will have the fastest growing economy in the G7 this year and next year. Just last week, S&P reaffirmed Canada's AAA credit rating with a stable outlook. We have the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe-Lille. Mr. Speaker, at the Official Languages Committee, Robert Laplante explained that there are not two majorities in Canada. There's just one majority, which is the Anglophone majority, part of which lives in Quebec. The government said the same thing in its throne speech in 2020. It said that the situation of French is unique. There are nearly 8 million Francophones in Canada, in an ocean of more than 360 million mainly Anglophone inhabitants. Is that still what the Minister of Official Languages thinks? The Minister of Official Languages. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for the question. As someone from an official language minority community, a French community, I recognize the importance of protecting French. That's part of my daily life, and that's why I'm so proud to introduce a modernization of the Official Languages Act, and I hope that our colleague will support it and help us pass it as soon as possible. The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, the situation of French is unique, but not according to federal language legislation. Again, Robert Laplante at committee said that it is indefensible to compare the situation of French in Quebec and the situation of English in Canada, and in parallel, the situation of Anglophone and Francophone minorities. Even the Prime Minister said in 2020 that in order for Canada to be bilingual, Quebec needs to be primarily French-speaking. Is that still what the Minister thinks? The Honourable Minister of Official Languages. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I've said many times, protecting and promoting French is an absolute priority for this government and for myself as Minister of Official Languages. We are the first government to recognize that French is declining throughout the country, including in Quebec. And that is why we are bringing forward a new version of the Official Languages Act. And again, I hope that opposition members will help us to pass that bill as soon as possible.
The Honourable Member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, an avalanche of information came out today regarding the Liberal government's corrupt tax dealings with a huge multinational corporation. Documents reveal the Minister of National Revenue gave a sweetheart tax deal to a corporation using Ireland as a tax haven, which is a breach of CRA's own rules. Whistleblowers in the Minister's Department raised alarm bells saying the deal undermines the integrity of the CRA. Will the Minister of National Revenue tell Canadians why there's one tax code for normal Canadians and a secret tax code for friends of this Liberal government?
Mr. Speaker, Canadians' confidence in our tax system is at the very heart of the agency's activities. And when it comes to these arrangements, a review was conducted by a third party. No misconduct was found, Mr. Speaker. So let me be clear. The review was carried out by an independent expert and showed that the conditions were favorable to the CRA and did not involve any kind of preferential treatment.
Member, Northumberland, Peterborough South.
Well, with respect, Mr. Speaker, that's not what the media is saying, and that's not what is coming out from insiders of the CRA. According to the media, according to the report, CRA violated its own policy and procedures to give a sweetheart deal to big business. This, in addition to not prosecuting one person from the Panama Papers. Why is the CRA aggressively pursuing hardworking Canadians while letting big business off the hook?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue.
Mr. Speaker, during this Mental Health Week, this is very twisted rhetoric to hear from the other side of the House. Perhaps the minister could rephrase.
Guys, for maybe that last statement, I think it was a little inflammatory. La ministre.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I apologize. Let's be clear, Mr. Speaker. The review was carried out by a tax expert, an independent expert, who showed that the conditions were, in fact, favorable to the CRA and Canadians, and do not offer preferential treatment.
Bravo.
The honourable member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are horrified to hear media reports that high-ranking Canada Revenue Agency officials are making sweetheart deals with multinational corporations so they don't pay their fair share of tax revenue.
Unbelievable.
Worse yet, internal Canada Revenue Agency emails raise concerns around corruption. Has the Minister of National Revenue met with the CRA Commissioner on this issue? And does she support the Conservatives' calls to have the Commissioner appear before the Finance Committee?
The Honourable Minister of National Revenue. Mr. Speaker, I can't believe that the Conservatives still don't know that committees are independent and arm's length. But I would like to reassure my colleague that they can invite their own witnesses without my approval. The Honourable Member for Bourassa. Mr. Speaker, on our side of the House, we know that vaccines save lives. Last week, Moderna announced that it will be building a factory in Montreal that will have capacity to produce up to 100 million vaccines per year. That is a remarkable announcement for our national biomanufacturing sector. Can the Minister of Innovation tell us about the importance of this partnership for health and our economy? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for his excellent question. Last week, I joined the Prime Minister in Montreal for a truly historic announcement in the life sciences. We announced that Moderna would be building its factory in Quebec. For 2 years, we have been rebuilding the Canadian biomanufacturing sector with strategic investments. Thanks to our vision, Canada will be better prepared to face any other health crisis that may occur in future. We are creating the future of vaccines in Canada.
The honourable member for Prince George Central, Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, the NDP Liberal budget proves once again that this government is all talk and no action. Instead of a plan to protect our Arctic sovereignty and security, all we got was a re-announcement of NORAD's existing infrastructure and that the government is considering its options. Millions promised while billions are needed. Our Arctic sovereignty and security cannot be protected by more Liberal empty promises. Will the minister, who continues to fail to defend our North, stand up and explain?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, Canada's sovereignty in the Arctic is secure and well established. We're taking action and making landmark investments to increase our Arctic sovereignty, including conducting joint exercises in the Arctic, purchasing 6 Arctic offshore patrol ships, Mr. Speaker, enhancing surveillance and intelligence capability in the Arctic with the procurement of 88 fighter jets. We will remain firm and unwavering in the defense of the Arctic and our continental security more generally. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now the Honourable Member for Costa Bay Central, Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, the Beaver Peninsula, Fogo Island, Buchan, St. Albans and Herbert Breton once had 25 doctors. These 5 communities in my ridings are either without a doctor or about to lose their last one. Some desperate communities are even asking me if it's possible to get relief from Army doctors and medics. The 7,500 healthcare professionals promised for rural Canada in the Liberals' election platform can't be found in the 2022 budget. Why did the Liberal government break their promise to rural Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very glad to receive a question from a person, from an MP from Newfoundland, with which we have a great relationship. We are very grateful for their hard work through the last 2 years. We are also very grateful for the important work that they do every day to provide people in Newfoundland with a primary care provider, a family physician, to reduce backlogs of the $2 billion investment that we announced just a few weeks ago, to make sure that every person in that province and in all provinces and territories benefit from the wonderful collaboration we're having across Canada.
The Honourable Member for Red Deer Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, the provincial governments, which are responsible for delivery of health care, are fine with removing vaccine and mask mandates in their jurisdictions because they know they can now manage COVID. The federal government, however, which is not responsible for healthcare delivery, is still implementing punitive mandates for employees, travelers, and those crossing borders. They are virtually the only government in the world that's doing this. Why are these NDP Liberals such outliers?
Let's I would say maybe the member could find a new word on the end. Maybe apologize for that little quip, and maybe rephrase that.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, wearing a mask has made me cough. I meant to say outliers.
I know we're trying to get in directly here, which we can't say directly. So maybe the member can try one more time. The Honourable Member for Red Deer Lacombe.
Well, I'm just asking, Mr. Speaker, I withdraw the comment. I'm wondering why the Government of Canada is an outlier on this issue.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Everyone in this House obviously agrees on the importance of being responsible and prudent. We have done what Canadians expected of us in the last 2 years. Canadians have done what we expected of them in the last 2 years, which was supposed to follow public health measures to get vaccinated. Now, because of that, we have achieved in Canada one of the lowest death rates in the world. If that is called an outlier, we're very proud of that.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
Mr. Speaker, as a former small business owner who knows firsthand the struggles that small businesses and entrepreneurs faced throughout the pandemic, expanding trade ties with the Philippines is crucial in our trade diversification strategy, as it is a fast-growing market and will create new economic opportunities for Canadian businesses of all sizes. Can the Minister of International Trade, Export Promotion, Small Business and Economic Development update us on what our government is doing to strengthen our economic and commercial relationships with the Philippines and Filipino-Canadian businesses?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for Mississauga-Streetsville for the question. This weekend, Canada and the Philippines signed an agreement to establish a joint economic commission. The Philippines is a growing and a dynamic market in the Indo-Pacific region. This is going to help Canadian businesses of all sizes export more into this market and become more competitive globally. We will continue to build also on the people-to-people ties. With over 1 million Filipino Canadians who call Canada home, I want to say to those entrepreneurs, what a great way to kick off Asian Heritage Month.
The Honourable Member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, this week is Mental Health Week, and after 2 years of COVID-19, Canada has seen what we already knew, that our mental health system is woefully underfunded. Many Canadians are struggling with their mental health but can't access the care they need. This government promised to establish a new federal transfer to help provinces and territories expand mental health services. While the government pledged an initial $4.5 billion over 5 years, this funding was nowhere to be found in the budget. When will this government fulfill its promise and deliver a permanent federal transfer for mental health services?
The Honourable Minister of Mental Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for his question and his ongoing advocacy. As he knows, mental health is health, and our government has made mental health a priority. In 2017, we made $5 billion available to provinces and territories in bilateral agreements that is for 10 years up to 2027. We've established $45 million for the National Mental Health Care Standards, and through that we will get a mental health strategy, and through that we will have a plan to be able to negotiate with provinces and territories for the very, very important mental health transfer.
The The honourable member for Nunavut.
The impacts of colonialism are deep among Inuit. In Nunavut, suicide rates are 10 times higher than the rest of Canada. I must amplify the need for sustainable, culturally appropriate mental wellness services. Organizations like the Ilisak Civic Society work tirelessly to support mental well-being and train Inuit to be counselors. To survive, Ilisak Civic must compete for funding. Will this government take action by providing sustainable funding for organizations that provide culturally appropriate wellness services?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, it gives me pleasure to rise in this House during Mental Health Week to talk about the overlay of extreme mental health needs in Indigenous communities as a result of a history of colonization and oppression in this country. And that's why this government takes this so seriously. In fact, we've designated $425 million towards Indigenous mental health specific programs, more money in budget 2022, so that we will have mental health services that are culturally appropriate and that will serve communities to the best of those communities' needs as designed by Indigenous people. Thank you.
And that's all the time for question period today. I'd like to draw the attention of members of the presence in the gallery of the Honourable John Stryker, Government House Leader, Minister of Energy, Mines and Resources, Minister responsible for Yukon Development Corporation, Minister responsible for Yukon Energy Corporation, Minister of Public Service Commission, and Minister responsible for French Language Service Directorate. Now, we have a number of requests today, and I will recognize the honourable member for Victoria. The honourable member for Victoria had a motion. Okay, sorry. Yep. Just going by the list.
Sorry. I don't have it.
I'll take a break here. I know that normally we do it in the order they've been received by the table. Okay. The honourable member for Victoria, and I apologize for jumping on out on that one.
No. Mr. Speaker, there have been consultations among the parties, and I am seeking unanimous consent for the following motion. It's not there. I'm so sorry, Mr. Speaker. It appears I have the wrong piece of paper.
Okay, I'm just gonna, we'll restart this. We're going back into to motions, the points of orders and motions. The honourable member for Victoria.
Apologies, Mr. Speaker. There has been consultations among the parties, and if you seek it, I hope you will get unanimous consent for the following motion. That given that we are in a climate emergency and Canada spends 14 times more on financial supports to the fossil fuel sector than it does for renewable energy, that the House call on the government to A, eliminate all subsidies, public financing, and other fiscal supports to the oil and gas sector before the end of 2020.
I'm hearing a lot of no's, so we're going to go on to the next one. No. The honourable member for Oakville North, Burlington. Okay, Mr. Badaway is... Sorry about this. The list we're being provided was different than the one that's happening. So, well, please bear with me. There you go. There you go. The honourable member for No. All right, we're going to go to the letter of the deputy.
The honourable member for Montarville. Mr. Speaker, there have been consultations amongst the parties, and I believe you will see that there is unanimous consent for the following motion. That this House emphasizes that Quebec and Canada are welcoming nations, open to the world, invested in the fight against anti-Semitism and all forms of discrimination, and condemns the false, defamatory, and offensive remarks made by the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. All those who oppose that the honourable member moves the motion, please say no. All right, the House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say no. No, I've heard some no's.
For the honourable order. The honourable member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman has a request.
Mr. Speaker, there's been conversations among colleagues, and I think if you seek, you'll find unanimous consent for the following motion. That this House, A, affirm that the rule of law is one of the principles upon which Canada was founded and applies equally to everyone. No one is above the law. And B, that the criminal code provides no statute of limitations for crimes such as fraud against the government. And anyone, even the Prime Minister.
I'm hearing no's before we even get started.
It's a long list. The honourable member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, there have been consultations amongst the parties, and I believe you will see that there is unanimous consent for the following motion, that the House reiterate that a woman's body belongs to her and her alone, and recognize her freedom of choice on abortion for any reason. I've heard a number of no's.
A few no's. The honourable member for Cumberland Colchester.
Consultation amongst the parties, and I believe if you seek it, you will find unanimous consent for the following: that the government allow public servants to return to work regardless of vaccination status.
Again, I'm hearing a number of no's before we even get going. I'm guessing there's not a lot of consultation amongst parties. Let me go to our virtual version here.
The honourable member for Mont-Royal.
Speaker, and I hope I'll do better than my honourable colleagues in terms of getting consent. Mr. Speaker, there have been discussions amongst the parties, and if you seek it, I hope you will find unanimous consent to adopt the following motion: that this House emphasizes that Canada is a welcoming country, open to the world, invested in the fight against anti-Semitism and all forms of discrimination, and condemns the false, defamatory, and offensive remarks made by the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov.
All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion, please say nay. Agreed? The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. The motion is carried. Since I'm now going on this a little off the list,
point of order.
I have a point of order from the honourable member for Sherwood Park, Saskatchewan.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if you could just report to the House on the question of bringing a unanimous consent motion when a unanimous consent motion that was identical or very similar was put forward. I supported the last motion, of course, but I am concerned about protecting the rights of members insofar as seeing the same motion repeatedly proposed. I wonder if you could report to the House on the expectations around that. Thank you.
I will follow up with this right after we finish this list of motions. So, the honourable member for Foothills.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And there have been discussions amongst the parties, and in the spirit of Mental Health Week and the incredible work of organizations like Do More Agriculture and my colleague from Caribou Prince George, I think if you will seek it, you will find unanimous consent for the following motion: that in the opinion of the House, the government update the mandate of Farm Credit Canada to further enhance services and products that support mental health, members of agriculture and agri-food.
I'm getting a number of no's again. I will have a comment after this about these. This isn't debate. This isn't debate. Let's get these complete. The honourable member, the honourable opposition House Leader. The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm listening to the vigorous conversation that's going on here. There have been discussions among the parties, Mr. Speaker, and I think if you seek it, you'll find unanimous consent for this. following motion that in regard to the government motion number 11 and out of respect for the hard-working and dedicated employees of the House of Commons...
We're getting a lot of no's on that one. The honourable member for Abbotsford.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I hope I'll be able to finish my motion before we get all these no's from across the way.
It's a good one.
There have been discussions among the parties, and I believe you will find unanimous consent for the following motion. That given that the government tabled the largest spending budget in Canadian history.
There we go. I guess there's no consent on that one. And finally on my list, l'honorable député de Mégantic.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, I think if you seek it, you will find unanimous consent of the House, Mr. Speaker, for the following motion that the House take note of the provincial premier's demand for an increase in healthcare transfers. I'm hearing a lot of nays. There is not consent.
All right. Oh, we have another. My goodness, we have another one. The honourable member for Glengarry Prescott Russell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there has been consultations amongst the parties, and I hope, well...
To hear the first sentence, and then we'll decide from there. The honourable member.
And I hope that you will see that there is unanimous consent for the following motion, that in the opinion of the House, the government will update the farm credit.
All right, the honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
I'd like it if members of this place acquainted themselves with the standing rules, particularly Standing Rule 16 and Standing Rule 18, which mean that when a member rises and has been recognized by the Speaker, he or she or they are not to be interrupted by yelling. Thank you.
Take the opportunity to maybe, or do you have a response to the point of order? Okay, the honourable member of South Surrey White Rock.
Frankly, Mr. Speaker, we are all quite aware with the rules of procedure in this House. We do not need to be lectured by another member on how to conduct ourselves. We know what we're doing here in this House. Thank you very much.
All right. I have this comment to make, whether it's not a point of order or response to it, but I know there was an unusually high number of requests for unanimous consent motions after question period for today, and all but one were denied. I would like to bring the attention of a few quotes from chair occupants with regards to this process. From May 17, 2019, quote, "It is known to be common practice of the House to use unanimous consent motions when there is known agreement amongst parties for the acceptance of these motions," unquote. And one from May 27, 2019, quote, "As Speaker, I am confident that members still expect the process of unanimous consent to be used for its rightful purpose and in the manner in which it was intended, including ensuring that the necessary consultations take place prior to these requests being raised in the House," unquote. And finally, one from June 3rd, 2019, "We expect, in fact, to be consent because the members consulted all parties and has received that consent," unquote. I encourage members to bear this in mind before seeking unanimous consent for a motion. C'est peut-être aussi...
Perhaps this matter could be discussed by the parliamentary leaders during their meeting later this afternoon.
All right, what are we off to now? I have another point of order from the member from Saanich Gulf Islands.
Hey, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend from South Surrey White Rock is indeed a friend. But I only rose because it is impossible for either of these parties to hear themselves speak. When I have been here 11 years, Mr. Speaker, I've never heckled once. It is possible to respect our rules and respect each other, and that's all I plead for.
Here, here. And I thank the member for her intervention as well. There you go. Orders of the day.
Government orders, government bills, commons.
At third reading of Bill C-8, the Economic and Fiscal Update, and on the sub-amendment of Mr. Caputo.
When we went off, the member for Hastings, Lennox, Addington had the floor. She has 8 minutes left and 5 minutes of questions and answers. The honourable member for Hastings, Lennox, and Addington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to rise to resume intervention on C-8.
Earlier, I noted that Parliament is supposed to be a legislature based on collaboration, not coercion. I also highlighted how important the role of Parliament is in scrutinizing the spending of public funds. Now, I want to bring this around to something the leader of the NDP, the member for Burnaby South, said just last week in his speech on the budget. In the past couple of years, Canadians have had to deal with the pandemic and the growing costs of living, which is at a crisis level now. The cost of everything has gone